Dr. Tony Alessandra, how are you?
Doing great, Dominic. Thanks for having me on the show.
I have to say, I'm excited beyond what should probably be normal because I read some of your books when I was younger. I almost said a kid. And I didn't think the day would come when I would reach out to you and ask you to be on a podcast with me and have you as a guest. So I'm pretty excited or stoked.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Can I start with a formality though? I refer to you as Dr. Tony Alessandra, but you're logged in as Tony Alessandra. Which would you prefer?
Uh, I prefer Tony. I was born and raised in New York City, brought up in an Italian neighborhood. My father was a New York City cab driver. That's my roots. So I prefer to just, hey, Tony, or maybe even, hey, you, whatever works.
Do it with more of the New York accent you grew up with when you say that then. I bet your dad had a bunch of great one-liners then if he was a New York cabbie.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh yes. And especially all of the people that got in his cab, many of them celebrities.
Fantastic. Yeah, those are stories. Well, maybe you'll pepper those stories in here as we need to. I know who you are, but our guests might not. So, Tony, if I can, Tony, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and how you come to be speaking to a group of, forward-thinking, entrepreneurially minded business owners in the construction trades?
All right. So, and that's interesting because I'm going to give you a little bit of background. So, as I said, I grew up in New York City and New Jersey, first 18 years of my life, went to college at the University of Notre Dame in Indiana. Then got my MBA at the University of Connecticut, and finally a PhD in marketing from Georgia State University. Now, when I was in high school, I applied to go to various colleges, and Notre Dame was one of them, but never thought I'd get in. And when the acceptance letter came in this one day, my mother was out there, classic Italian mother
Italian.
waving the envelope. And she said, "You got accepted to Notre Dame," which really from a Catholic university, it is probably the preeminent Catholic university in the world.
Yeah.
And I said, "Mom, we don't have the money to go there." And she said, "Don't worry, your father and I have enough money to pay for the first year, and something will work out."
Mm.
So after the first year, I come back and I get a job to start earning some money. First week, I'm in construction.
Hey, perfect. Right? That's how you come to be on this show.
Yeah, I'm building homes, right? So 1 week into my summer job, I'm up on the roof. I'm nailing in the roof there. And the owner of the company, the contractor, comes up to me, and I'm kneeling down as I'm hammering. And he comes up to me, he kneels down beside me, puts his arm around me and said, "Tony, become a doctor." I was fired. So
because you're no good.
Well, he said, I don't believe this, seriously, but he said I was nailing like this instead of like that.
Wow. I mean, I can't imagine that. For the people who are listening to the audio, Tony just did the hammering move as if he was a German clock.
Yeah.
Like moving like
boom,
this.
Boom, boom, like that.
For those of you watching the video, you're already laughing. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I that evening, after getting fired, I was at a party and I was talking to one of my buddies from high school. And I told him what happened. I made a joke out of it because it is funny, sad, but funny. And he said, "Why did you come to work for my uncle?" And I said, "Well, what does your uncle do?" He has a company that sells cookware, high-end cookware, door to door. And, hey, I said, I'll go investigate it, which I did. And I started selling this cookware. It was called Salad Master.
Oh, gee, I remember Salad Master.
Well, there's another piece to this puzzle too. So I really, growing up, a lot of people said that I was a born salesperson, quote, born salesperson, persuasive. Anyway, in the first 9 weeks of selling during the summer, I earned almost, this was 1966. So just picture that. We're talking about what, 54 years ago. In 9 weeks, I earned just under $5,000, which was an enormous amount of money, more than enough to pay for my sophomore year tuition, room, board, and spending money for the entire year.
Wow.
So, and by the way, at the same time, I was selling cookware in New Jersey, what we call the Jersey Shore.
Yeah,
down by the beaches.
Jersey Shore, yeah.
One of the top salespeople, if not the top salespeople in all of Salad Master, whose name I really didn't know at the time, who was selling Salad Master cookware out of Texas, was a gentleman named, I don't know if you've heard this name before, Zig Ziglar.
Oh, no way.
Do you believe that?
I'm such a geek. I've got goosebumps here, Tony. This is fantastic. So Zig Ziglar. I mean, he's one of the greatest names in sales and sales training. Unfortunately, he's passed now 4 or 5, a little longer, maybe 8 years ago. Wow. Yeah. I didn't know Zig was doing that.
Yeah. So that's how Zig started. At least selling the cookware, and he was quite good. I sold it door to door without an actual cooking demonstration. He actually did cooking demonstrations. And the cooking demonstrations sold the cookware better because once you tasted something cooked in that waterless surgical stainless steel cookware, it really, really had an impact because most people would boil things, take all the flavor out of it, pour the water, with all that flavor and vitamins down the drain. But waterless cookware with just a couple of drops of water on, let's say, carrots or whatever it is you're steaming, absolutely incredible. You haven't tasted anything so good. Well, anyway,
you're still selling Salad Master.
Actually, I do have an extra set if you're interested.
But it's the last one, though, right? It's the last one.
Last one.
Yeah.
And a special price today only.
Oh, geez.
So anyway, I did that for 3 summers, all the way through college. Paid my tuition all the way through. So my mother saying, back before I went to Notre Dame, something
find a way.
Will find a way. We found a way, and it was me selling. And really, I majored in business administration and marketing all the way through, even my PhD. But I really, sales was so natural to me. And another interesting little goosebump is when I was a teenager, I liked to read self-help books. I really was a self-help freak.
That's how I found you. That's how I found you.
Through my
so many years ago in the must have been in the 90s, which was a long time ago for me.
I loved self-help books because my mother used to motivate me and nudge me in a sense by always telling me, Anthony, she called me Anthony, not Tony.
Anthony.
But after I got my PhD, she had to call me Dr. Tony, but that's a...
please. Come on. You gave me the okay.
Yeah. If I asked my mother to do that, she would have smacked me.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
She always used to say to me, Anthony, always go the extra what?
Mile.
Inch.
Now
it is mile. Go the extra mile. But my mother used to say a mile is too far. A mile is too long. Go the extra inch. And what her philosophy was, each and every day, look for ways to improve yourself just a little bit. So every day, learn a new word. Every day, read an extra page in a book. Every day, give one more compliment. Every day, walk an extra block or
knock
whatever
on
it
one
was.
more door.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, constant self-improvement, which of course led me to be reading these self-help books. And 2 of the books that had such an impact on me, one was called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, incredible book. Life-changing book, quite frankly, for me. And the second one was called The Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. David Schwartz. The Magic of Thinking Big, Dr. David Schwartz. Well, when I was looking around for my PhD program, lo and behold, at Georgia State University, Dr. David Schwartz is teaching in the
Oh,
marketing department. I called up Georgia State, got him on the phone, told him about, reading the book, my teenage years. I'm coming for my PhD. Would you be my doctoral dissertation chairman? He said, absolutely.
wow.
And boom. So when I went there, he was not just a professor, but obviously the author of a best-selling book that has sold millions of copies, The Magic of Thinking Big. And he also went out giving motivational speeches around the book.
Right.
And he would give upwards of 100 speeches a year, even as he was a full-time faculty member. And I would look at this and I would say, my God, that's unbelievable, And I think
that's a lot of speaking gigs.
It is, and it had an imprint on me. And in 1979, January of 79, I had quit my job as a university professor. I was a professor at the University of San Diego, which is where I live now, San Diego, California.
Yeah.
And I quit in December, the end of December. January, I'm now a full-time professional speaker. And my first book came out in January of 79 called Non-Manipulative Selling. And that I used that book almost like a business card and got me off to my career in speaking, where I, in fact, for over 30 years, averaged about 100 paid speeches a year all over the world.
Just like your mentor did.
Just like my mentor.
Yeah.
So it did have an impact on me. But yet I was burning out from travel. We're all familiar with the frequent flyer miles.
Yeah.
I have over 12.5 million frequent flyer miles on American Airlines alone.
Just on American Airlines.
Just on American. Well, of course, they're my number one.
Well, of course, but there's other connectors that you probably have hundreds of thousands that we wouldn't even consider.
Yeah. But I was burning out from the travel. And that's when, and this is the last piece of this puzzle here, Dominic, and we can get into the topic here. And the last piece is in 2000, you remember the term Y2K,
Yes.
all that thing happening. And I was saying to myself, I've got to make a change. I've got to slow down my speaking because really it's just having a negative effect on me, the travel, not the speaking. So I took my entire staff, my speaking staff, I spun them off into another business, gave them all of the office, the computers, everything imaginable, everything in that office I gave to them. And I really gave to one person who had been my marketing director for up to that point, 17 years, and said, this is yours.
I'm going to go reinvent myself.
Yeah. And I said, instead of overhead, see, this is all overhead for me. I said, instead of overhead, now whenever you get me a speech, I'll give you a percentage. Whenever you sell my product, I'll give you a percentage. So I took fixed overhead and made it all variable overhead. Right. And what I did is I started this business called assessments24x7.com. It's an online assessment business. We have assessments like DISC and Motivators and Higher Sense, assessments that, when a doctor gives you an MRI, they want to look inside your body,
right?
See what's going on. Assessments are like an MRI of the mind. It kind of gets in what makes you tick.
That's right.
What makes humans tick. And the assessments are used for personal development, employee development, team building, leadership development, hiring employees, doing benchmarking of employees. So I started that business in 2000. And as that business grew, and I looked out, Dominic, some people think that I have an uncanny sense of luck. Seriously. And I believe that myself. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, I think luck comes with hard work. The harder, it's not my saying, but the harder you work, the luckier.
Yeah. And that is true. But I really think I have like an angel on a shoulder. guides me in a sense. So it just so happened I start this assessment company. Who's my first customer? Turns out to be a big customer, a gentleman named Dr. Ken Blanchard, the author of The 1 Minute Manager.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, all these things,
come together. Well,
just coming together here.
And that's why I've got you here today to talk about leadership and reinventing yourself. I didn't know the reinvention story where you shut down your speaking business, sort of spun it off, gave it a new life, and then gave yourself the space, I guess, to go and create the assessment business, which may, maybe did you have a clear picture when you spun that off what you were going to do, or did you just say, what I'm doing now isn't working? Even though it works, it's not working the way I want it to.
Right.
I'm going to go do something else. Did you have a clear picture of what that was?
I wish I did. I know I'm an advocate of goal setting, but my goals just sort of appear to me. This is my third career I'm on right now. My first one was a university professor, and I never knew I wanted to be a professional speaker, but I sort of grabbed, almost like how water flows, it goes right where it needs to. All of a sudden, being a professional speaker appeared, and I was quite good at it. In 1986, I was inducted into the Speakers Hall of Fame with the National Speakers Association, and was quite good at it, made a lot of money in it. You can just imagine 100 speeches, paid speeches.
That's right.
Five figures per speech. It was a lot of money. So it wasn't the money, it was the travel. And when I spun off the speaking business, I just spun off the management of it as I was building the assessment business. And by the way, I had been in the assessment business since 1974. It was all paper-based. It was in 2000 that I decided to program it and bring it online. So I hired somebody to do that for me.
You know what, as I'm listening to you tell your story and this journey, I'm thinking about people listening to the show, and they're contractors, construction contractors, renovations. Let's say they're doing kitchens and baths, and let's use a kitchen and bath renovation contractor as an example. He's listening to this going, well, where's my takeaway? And I think the takeaway is understanding maybe you should just be a kitchen or a bathroom renovations expert. And you've already got the two business models running, but you have to face the absolute blunt reality that one of them is a better opportunity for you than the other. And it might be the same with somebody that does fences, decks, and gazebos. Maybe gazebos is the thing, and you've got to do something else with the fences and decks. And, I could keep using that analogy, but the takeaway message, then I think one that people miss a lot is that we're in business. At the end of the day, we're in business. You just happen to be an HVAC specialist. You just happen to be a professional speaker and professor. And I mean, I don't want to say this in a disrespectful way, but it's a bit of a Forrest Gump story. Like, I did this and this happened. I did this and I met the president. I did this and I was a ping pong champion, but not in any sort of negative way. But you go out there and you do what needs to be done, and the opportunities appear. But then you also had, what I'm hearing from your story is the bravery to say, this thing is working, but it's not working for me. It works great. It's not what I want. And you carved it off and reinvented yourself. And I would ask the question, everybody listening, is somebody here ready for reinvention?
Yeah, but what you bring up is important, and that is focus. And that's one thing that I try to do is focus. Focus on what you do best. Focus on what brings you the most passion. And I focus, and that's important. Another term that I use, in fact, this year we have a couple of, in my business, and I think my business is very much in terms of a scale, like many of your listeners. And that is, we are in the, I would say the $1 million to $10 million range of revenue. I've got 12 full-time employees. So this whole concept of leading and managing people is obviously a crucial element that I have to do with these people.
Right. Yeah.
But this year, I try to have a theme, So this year, the theme is let's focus on what we do best. You know, the old Pareto's principle, which is the 20-80 rule or the 80-20 rule, whatever you want to say. 20% of what you do brings 80% of your revenue or whatever. And so we looked at all of our products and what we do, and we found, ironically, even more than a 20-80 rule, two of our assessments brought in over 90% of our revenue.
Oh, so even more than the 80-20 rule.
Yeah. So the flash of blinding obvious was, hey, why are we working in all these other areas that bring in little revenue, take a lot of work, when we should be focusing on those two things that bring in the bulk of our revenue, make them better. So that's one of the themes is focus. Another one is simplicity. Let's look at our jobs and look at the 20% of what we do each and every day that brings in the most productivity.
Right.
And are there any things we are doing, let's say in the bottom 20%, whether it's the bottom 20% or not, are there any things we're doing? These are specific things, by the way, Dominic, that I've told my people this year. Are there any things that you are doing, first of all, that you shouldn't really be doing, either because it takes so much time with little payoff, or it causes stress, whatever that is? Or are there things that we're doing that we have to do, but certainly can be automated? That's another big theme. So that, the whole thing of focus, simplicity, productivity, those are some of the key themes, the three themes this year.
I love that. And I think what I hope people are taking away from that message is that this is an ongoing thing. Tony, you've been working at this is not your first business.
No.
You've been at this business for a long, we should talk about what your business does so that people are probably just salivating, trying to, because we haven't gotten to what you do. But here you are still reinventing yourself as you go along and refocusing. And that's, if I can stop for a second and remind everybody listening, that's what we want you to do. Take away as a message is continue to tweak your business. You said your mom said, go the extra inch?
Go the extra inch.
Just an inch a year, an inch a day. Do one thing, right? One thing. By the way, Tony, what part of Italy are you from?
Well, 3 of my grandparents are from Sicily and 1 from Naples. And I've been to Sicily twice in the last 4 years, a week each time, and went to each of the towns where my 3 grandparents were from. And in one of them, actually went to the town records department, and where everything is in books, not computers.
The huge book.
Big old
That's
book.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so they're going through the book. They see my grandmother, my mother's mother. There's her name. There's where she lived.
That's so
they
great.
made me a copy of her birth certificate, which I could have used, by the way, to get a dual citizenship for Italy, but it was too much work and too much time. I mean, it took like 3 to 5 years for that to happen. But, let's get back to some takeaways. That's the key.
Sure.
When you look at it, everything in business, when we're managing our employees, everything, our employees and our customers, those are the 2 keys here, or even our vendors, everything is built around relationships. I really believe that relationships are the key to keeping your employees, to getting customer retention, and for good, solid relationships with our vendors. I came across a study here. I'm going to look at it here. Wall Street Journal, a survey. They were asking business people what were the attributes that were considered very important in hiring people. Okay. Number 1, 90% of the people chose this, their communication and interpersonal skills, how well they communicated with people. Number 2, the ability to work well within a team. All right. And number 10 was personal chemistry. So it's all around this relationship. Back in 96, I came out with another one of my books. called the Platinum Rule. And the Platinum Rule is a twist to the Golden Rule. The Golden Rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In other words, treat people the way you would like to be treated. Well, right. I have to tell you, Dominic, in a world of increasing diversity, treating people the way you want to be treated can often backfire.
Can it ever?
You know, I as I said, I grew up in New York, New Jersey, and then I moved to San Diego.
Couldn't be more different.
I treated the people in San Diego as if they were New Yorkers. Do you see a problem? I came on too strong, too fast, too in your face, too aggressive. Even when I asked people to do things that under any other circumstance they would have willingly done, they dug in their heels because it wasn't what I was asking them to do. It was
how you were asking them.
Just rubbed them the wrong way. And so the Platinum Rule, that's when I came up with the Platinum Rule, is do unto others as they would have you do unto them. Now, when we're talking about how to lead so that people will follow.
That's the subject of today, how to lead so people will follow. Yeah.
So the point is, and I'll simplify it because simplicity is one of my themes this year. And that is you cannot manage, you cannot treat, you cannot communicate with all of your employees exactly the same way. They are different. In my company, my online assessment company, I have some people who are incredibly analytical. I have some people who are incredibly persuasive, outgoing, whereas the analytical people are more introverts. You cannot treat those two people exactly the same. No, not at all.
You can't even have a staff meeting that goes one way or the other because you'll alienate, half of them won't be listening or will be offended.
Yeah. So listen to this. I sent out an email to my entire staff. I teach this, I preach this, and sometimes I violate it myself. And these are such simple things. I sent out an email and I said, hey, what are the top 3 things that you feel we are best at? And what are the 3 things that you can name that we are not as good at? Well, my outgoing, dominant, persuasive people, boom, right away, they gave me the top 3, bottom 3. Yeah. The people who were analytical were hesitant because they thought that maybe I was looking for a way to let them go. No way was this even in my frame of reference.
But it was in their frame of reference.
It was in their frame of reference. So, it's important that we understand people are different. I have our biggest selling product in my assessment business is a product. It's an assessment called DISC, D-I-S-C. And D-I-S-C, have you talked about this?
Well, I've talked about it on the show because I am a complete fan of this. And I'll tell you, for people listening, tune in, stop doing whatever you're doing or walk an extra corner with your dog while you're walking the dog listening to this, because this is the level 9 ninja skill that Tony's about to give us.
Yeah.
Please,
so
I'm not going to do it. You explain DISC. Because
So DISC, is basically 4 patterns of behavior. D-I-S-C. Dominance is the D. Influence is the I. Steadiness is the S. And conscientiousness or cautiousness is the C. And these styles, unless there is adaptability. So the Platinum Rule really, do unto others as they would have you do unto you. That concept is adaptability. Adaptability is your ability to change your approach, to change your style, to change your communication based on the person or the situation you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the D's, the dominant, and the S's, the steadies, are opposites. And they can drive each other crazy. The I's, the influencers, and the C's, the conscientious.
Oh my goodness.
They are opposites. Drive each other crazy. And they need to know how to speak the language, how to communicate effectively.
Tony, can I interrupt here for a second? Because this is the crux of the thing. One of the things that I learned is that the S, the steadiness, quadrant. So for people who want to visualize this, this is a circle, and just draw it as a quadrant, like a scope on your rifle. Like it's just a quadrant, right. And people are somewhere on that quadrant. And in reality, we're all a little mix of That's somewhere on that quadrant, right? But one of the things I learned, then I'm going to ask you to do a comparison for us to really expand on it, is that somebody who's an S, if I know that person on my team is an S, and I am trying to talk to them about something or explain something or bring a change into the business, and I say, look, S, Stanley the S, Stanley, trust me, this is going to work. The phrase trust me to an S is an automatic game stopper. It's over. I've lost their trust because I said, trust me. And so for those of you listening, wondering, well, this is such a great interview and these two guys get along great and it's so very interesting, but what am I getting from this? What you're getting from this is how to be a leader by understanding how people think, act, and react. So Tony, can I put this question to you? Can you tell me what the I and the C are again, and how they might interact in a meeting in front of each other? And then when they leave that meeting, what would they say about each other?
Yeah, so the I is the influencer, and the C is the conscientious.
Yeah.
So the I, their key desire is fun, excitement, applause, visibility, recognition. In a meeting, let's say in a team meeting, they are the ones who throw out one-liners. They may bring the donuts. They get off the subject. They generalize. I say the I's have the gift of gab. Generally speaking, the I's are generally speaking.
Right. And I stands for influencer.
Influencer.
Right. They're the influential people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily influential, but people who are persuasive, the ability to influence other people, as opposed to, because you can look at influential being, I'm famous.
I see what you mean. Correct.
Yeah. All right. So the C's now.
And these are the opposite. Sorry, Tony, just for people who are listening and not watching, they're the opposite. They're 45-degree opposite, right?
Opposites. Yeah. So the C's, they don't talk a lot. They listen, they evaluate, they compare, they contrast. And when they start to speak, they've already evaluated everything. And they may say, Mr. I or Mrs. I, you said this yesterday, but today you're saying this. They've got their facts.
That's right. I love it.
And so they can annoy each other afterwards. The I is saying, "What a stick in the mud," and the C is saying, what an exaggerator, and the person doesn't know the facts, because the I's are saying I've done it 1,000 times, when in fact it's only been like 12. So
right.
Now let me go over a couple of their strengths. So you want the I and the C. So the I, as I said, persuasiveness, their social ability. The C is their accuracy, their inventiveness. Okay.
I didn't know the inventiveness was part of this.
Yeah. Oh, they are. They're very creative people. Very creative people. I would say a lot of musicians, for instance, are C's. If you give me a group of, let's say, a random group of 100 musicians, I would say. Certainly the biggest percentage would be C's. That's not to say that,
of course, there's other styles. Is it because of the mathematical nature of music and the tempo and the...
Yeah, I think so. So the C's, you see them a lot in the exact sciences, computer science, engineering, accounting. The I's, with their persuasiveness and their extroversion, are obviously sales, public relations, a cruise ship social director,
podcast host, public speaker. Tony,
that's it.
Does it sound like us?
It does, yes. Whereas the S's, their strengths are their patience, their perseverance, They have a stick-to-itiveness, whereas the Ds, they're great administrators, delegators. They work best under pressure.
Yeah.
Now, here's an interesting thing, and this is, a lot of people don't talk about this, is if you take a strength to the extreme, it becomes a weakness.
Interesting.
So the persuasiveness and the gift of gab of a high I, they talk too much. That could be, doing it too much. The S, in their ability to wanting to get along with people and their team player, they agree too much. Even when they disagree, they often agree because they don't want conflict.
Confrontation, yeah.
The C, because of their analytical ability, they question too much. And when they question too much, people are wondering, are they questioning me? Are they questioning my credibility? But that's not really what they're just question a lot. And the Ds, because they're great administrators, delegators, get things done, they control too much.
Too much. They can alienate people through that control.
Absolutely.
And their abruptness.
So it's important to understand these things because you have to manage these people differently. I wrote down a couple. Yes.
Oh, I just put up my hand as if you're still a professor. Sorry.
Okay.
but I have a question here. Does somebody's behavioral style, whether they're a driver, an influencer, steadiness, or I call it compliance, but you call it
compliance, conscientiousness,
compliance.
yeah.
So D, I, S, or C, is it more likely that one of those styles will be a successful business owner, or can any style find success in business?
And any style, any style.
Agree. Yeah, I've seen that as well.
Yeah, no question about it. It really depends on. You certainly will see some styles gravitating more to certain occupations.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that is the only style that will be successful. Take a CPA firm. You will see that more of them are C styles, but when you have an I style within an accounting firm,
they're the salesperson for the firm.
Business. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And they don't call it selling. They call it business development. They won't use the word sell. That's a 4-letter word to them.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you this, as a manager, now as our managers are listening to this, they excel at different aspects of the classic managerial situations. For instance, the I's excel at motivating. The D's excel at controlling. The S's control at organizing. The C's excel at planning. All 4 of those, motivating, controlling, organizing, and planning, are 4 of the basic functions of a manager.
Right.
But the different styles may actually have an edge in doing those things. So it's important to understand what your strengths are. And you mentioned earlier that in general, 90+% of the time, way beyond 90+% of the time, you are a combination of styles. You are not just a single style. Right. You're not going to say this person's only a D and that's it, or only a C, etc. When people take our DISC assessment online, they actually get the colors, DISC,
right,
and they get percentages of what they are each pattern, a percentage of DISC. It's like a rainbow.
Right.
But your rainbow, Dominic, may be different than my rainbow. My rainbow might have more green. Or
the influencers in the crowd are loving this analogy right now.
Yeah.
So the business owner listening to this might be saying, well, how can I apply this? And I think I have a suggestion, but I'd like you to correct me or extend on this. Is, let's say a business owner here is saying, you know what, guys, I've got guys I put in trucks and they go to job sites and there's conflict. If I put John with George, the job doesn't go right. There's just conflict. If I put George with Jeff, things go great. Those guys work great together. Why can't I can't scale this business because I can't keep control of my people. We've got conflict on one side and two guys that work great, but there's always a third man out. Is that an application, or is that a way to use this tool, this management tool, to understand my people better and how I can make people my tools, really?
Yeah. So here's what I would suggest and have suggested to thousands of businesses. First of all, let's profile with the online assessment each of our employees. So we have a good sense of who's who.
You have a baseline, you know what's what.
A baseline.
Right.
And in our dashboard, the dashboard that people might use to see all of their employees, they can actually plot them. This is automatically done for them on a wheel. And the wheel, just like you were saying, in the upper right is the D, the lower, et cetera. So DISC on this wheel. And you see the dots where people are with their initials. So you know where they are. And you say, oh my gosh, I don't have a single C in this company. Who's going to keep the books?
Who's going to remember the process?
We keep our the processes and appointments, or my God, I don't have a single I in this business. Who's the one who's going to make sales? Or I don't have a single S. Who's going to do customer service and smooth over any problems that we might have with our customers? But once I know what my staff is, so what you said is great. If I have enough people, can I in fact send out 2 people who have complementary styles? That doesn't mean 2 people of the same style,
right?
But as we look at this wheel, let's just envision a wheel and let's make a cross in that wheel. And in the upper right of the wheel, let's say we have the D's, and the lower right we have the I's, and the lower left we have the S's, and in the upper left we have the C's. So DISC. And when you have 2 people who are next to each other, so next to each other would be, let's see, the D and the I and the S and the C and the D. Those are all adjacent to each other. Those are okay to send out because they would either have a pace or priority issue, but they can work through it. The diagonals.
That's why I was saying the I versus,
the IC or the DS, we have definitely some issues. But let's say we don't have a big enough company that we can do that.
Yeah. And that's the reality for lots of us.
Why not put them through training? Why not? Just like if I were going to go on a trip, let's say for a month to Italy, I might want to learn Italian, or at least some Italian, right? And I want to know some things about the Italian culture, what I could or should not do. Well, that's what this DISC training does. It shows your employees how they can best communicate with the other 3 styles that they're not. It's almost like language communication, knowing how to speak a D, I, S, or C, knowing the strengths and the struggles, the motivators, the
things not to say. Don't say "trust me" to somebody who's an S.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we want to know that. That is crucial. So if we have a big enough company, maybe we can in fact put people together. But if not, let's train people so that they know how to communicate effectively and they're not irritated by things that people do and take it as a personal affront when it really is just a person's style.
That's right. They're not doing it on purpose. They're just being themselves.
They're being themselves. And if you understand why people behave the way they do, you become more tolerant of that behavior. And Dominic, what we're talking about here obviously is crucial for leaders and managers within a business, but equally important for spouses, for parents. You can take this concept home and use it at home.
Tony, I will say though, you have to be careful. If you go home after listening to this podcast and you say to your wife, you're such a C or such a D, you're going to get in trouble. They have to listen to the show before you say that. Let me flip this around another way. And this is one of the problems that I've seen in a real business, in a real situation, is somebody says to me, hey, Dominic, here's the business. Let's have a look at it. Let's pick it apart and see where the challenges are. And accounts receivable comes up as an issue. We're not collecting money in time and it's causing cash issues. And so I go to a weird place, a place people wouldn't expect. And I say, well, tell me who's collecting for you? Who's making the phone call to your overdue accounts? And they'll say, well, it's Bobby or Brenda. Well, it turns out Bobby or Brenda is what we would call a high I. They're an influencer. They're everybody's friend. They're great at relationships. And so when they make the collections call, the accounts receivable call to say, hey, you're late on your payment, first, they don't want to do it. It's not their comfy place. They're not probably ever going to be great at it. But also, the person on the other end of the line can influence them. Bobby, so good to talk to you again. Did you see that game? What's going on? How's this and that? Blah, blah, blah. Bobby's going to get off the phone and come back and report to you as the boss and say, yeah, those guys are good. They're going to pay for sure. We had a great conversation. I love that guy. He's going to pay. He ain't going to pay. Right. He ain't going to pay. But now you've got, let's say, Charles or Charlene, and she's a C. And she's going to get on the phone if she's in charge of accounts receivable, and she's going to say, hello, sir. Your account is 31 days overdue. You owe us $672.32. Can you please tell me how you intend to pay it, what size those installments are be, and when we can expect it? Yeah. And that's her normal style. But if you have an accounts receivable problem, you might actually have a people problem.
Yeah. And Dominic, listen to this. We actually, in our company, as I said, I have 12 employees plus myself. The person who follows up on past due invoices is a high C. And if
it's like we scripted the show, Tony.
We did, but I go a step further.
Yeah.
She knows that after 3 tries, if she can't get the money, she tells people that the next person who's going to call you is Dr. Tony, the New York City Sicilian. And I'm the hammer. I'm the high D. Now, I got to tell you, high Ds are blunt and to the point. Yeah. I don't know if I want them to do it first. I like your idea of the C's going first, trying to collect the money. They're matter of fact. They're
just matter of fact. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas the D's, like me, are
Darth Vader death grip on the neck.
I'm holding my baseball bat. We can come on a bit strong. So, and I will tell you this: in my business. And I'm going to take the speaking business from 1979 all the way through 2021 with my assessment business. I have only not been paid, and I'm talking about tens upon tens of thousands of transactions. I have only not been paid one time, and it was only $200-something. And believe me, if the person lived in the same city, I would have gotten the money, but they lived too far away.
Would have gone to visit. Yeah.
But we always get our money. We do it the right way. We are, one of the things I wanted to chat about a little was employee training. I think that's so crucial.
Well, let's hit on that before we start to wind it down. Because this is about leadership. So how do we take all of these great insights, the kinds of insights people have probably never heard about before? How do we put that in place in a business?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, I think training of people is crucial. Just because you say, oh, the person had past experience doing the same thing, we don't know how well they performed in the previous job. Oh, this person had 10 years sales experience. Well, there are people who have 10 years sales experience and they've learned for 10 years and gotten better each year. And there are people who simply in 10 years repeated the first year over 10 times and did not grow at all. I think it's crucial that when you hire somebody, first of all, there has to be a company orientation. Company orientation. Here's who we are. Here's what we do. Here's what we stand for. Here's our other employees. Here's their styles. Here's how to get along with them. This whole thing.
Yeah.
But also, okay, here's your job, and here's how you can do it even better. Now, I have to tell you, I've been a trainer for many, many, many years, and every so often I hear people say, oh, what if I train my employees, spend all that money, all that time, I train these employees and they leave. And I say to them, well, look at the opposite. What if you don't train them and they stay? And now they have to deal with your customers, and they're ill-trained, and they might make you lose these customers. Train your employees. Now, let me take it one step further. I believe in cross-training. I believe in employees being trained in 2 different jobs in the company. We do that in our company, in our assessment business. People can do more than one job. Why? Right. Well, especially, after we came out of this incredible COVID situation. Yeah. We're not even out of it yet. A lot of employees were either furloughed, laid off, quit, whatever. And so now the employees we might have left have to do more than one job. Did we train them to do that in advance? Most people would say no, they never did. What if an employee is sick and is out for whether it's a day, a week, a month, whatever? Who's going to pick up the slack? Cross-training is crucial. And let me take it a step further, Dominic. I think that our leaders, our managers, should be trained in the jobs of the employees. So for instance, I own my business, Dominic, and I know you own yours. But in my business, before I can criticize how an employee does a job, oh, you lost that sale, oh, you didn't collect from this customer, oh, you did not satisfy a customer who had a problem. How about once a month, the manager plays the role of the employee and does that job? Do you know, if you're familiar with the Hyatt hotel chain, once a year, all the managers in the corporate office of Hyatt, they go out into the field and they may play front desk person,
banquets, all of the different,
You name it, somebody, the baggage handlers, you name it, just so that they can empathize with what these people have to put up with, and also how to talk to them potentially about how to do their job better or do their job differently. So I think it's important that we as managers train our employees, cross-train them, constant training. So much training today, Dominic, can be done virtually.
Right.
So many people, your buddy Brian Tracy, people like Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, even me, we have virtual training programs. We can't go out anymore, at least now. So we've put so much of our training that we charge God knows how much. If we did it in person, it is a fraction of the cost.
Oh, yes. Yeah. These are the best times ever.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'm predicting that a lot of training that used to be done live will now be done virtually because it has been refined. It had to be refined. So, my disc training, the disc training is all virtual, and it's in little, 3 to 10 minute clips with
manageable chunks.
Yeah, chunks with little quizzes, so that you
people can only remember so much at a time, especially in virtual training. You have to change the way virtual training is delivered. I'm actually talking to a national HVAC supplier about training now, and it has to be virtual, but they also recognize they have to do the training.
Yeah. And one other thing about training, Dominic, and that is the skills that were required yesterday to do your job may have changed today and certainly will change tomorrow. So let's make sure that we don't train people just once in a job that may become obsolete. Let's train them, constant upgraded training, cross training, so that if something does not work out, they have something else to go to. One of my son-in-laws, I have 3 son-in-laws. One son-in-law was a big, very successful contractor. And all of this COVID stuff hit. And believe it or not, I said to him, you are very inventive. I see all these creative ideas that you have. and I saw how he did his job, as a contractor. I said, you know what I think you would be good at? Programming.
Oh my. Like
And
computer
so,
programming.
computer programming. I paid for him to go to these eight-week courses. He took 3 8-week courses to learn programming. He's now in an internship where he's doing creating apps, and he's doing what they call C# programming, and he's getting better and better each day. And I'll bet this year, sometime this year, he will be in a job where he will be making, maybe not this year, next year, he'll be making probably 6 figures with a lot less stress
And headache.
and a lot less physical.
Yeah.
This job is mental now, and he's good at it and he likes it. So, I'm not saying that construction is going to go away. Believe me, it's not.
It is not going away. It's just getting busier and busier. This COVID has been crazy busy for construction.
Yeah, but for him, there was an issue. It also was taking a toll physically on him. And they just had and at the time they had our first grandson. He wanted to spend more time with the grandson, but the construction job was taking him out and away so much. And now, of course, with this computer programming, he's doing everything from home. So, he
totally different world.
At least now. But
these skills that we're talking about here, understanding people's behavioral styles, is part of the evolution of a business owner. To understand, when you own a business, when you're on the tools are your tools. The shovel, the wrench, the pliers, the whatever tool you're using is your tool. But when you become a leader, the people are your tools. And I don't mean that in any disrespectful way at all, but those are the pieces we have to move to make sure the customer's happy, to make sure the job is done right, to make sure the office runs okay. Those are the tools. And so, Tony, what you've trained us on today, because this was a training session, what you've trained us on today is this level of understanding of how people communicate, how they interact, where those frictions might come up. There's so much here. I've been studying it from the side for a long time, and I've learned a ton from you today.
Yeah, but Dominic, one last piece, and I know we're pretty much out of time here, and that is when you send your staff out with their physical tools to do a job, if they are not trained in how to communicate effectively with the customer, because believe me, so many times you see people who are the worker bees on a job doing whatever, who know nothing about how to communicate effectively with a customer.
And all they're doing is losing you business.
Yeah. So I think, what we're talking about here today is how the leader can do this. But once the leader masters this, the leader should now look below to his or her direct reports and start training them on how to project the best foot forward for the company with the company's customers.
Dr. Tony, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how do they find out more? How do we get more Tony?
All right. So you can either email me, it's simply my name, but my initials first, AJA, that stands for Anthony Joseph Alessandra, AJA, at Alessandra, ALESSANDRA.com. So Alessandra, most people spell it with 2 L's and 1 S. It's 1 L, 2 S's, begins with an A, ends with an A. So AJA at Alessandra.com. And those of you who are somewhat internet savvy know that Alessandra.com is a website, so you can go there and learn a bit more about me and what I do. But if you're interested in the assessments and want to get a good sort of an overview of what the assessments are, what they do, and how you might be able to use them, go to my assessment site, which is assessments, that's plural, ASSESSMENTS 24x7, like 24x7.com. So assessments 24x7.com. But listen, feel free to email me. Believe me, I read every email. I will answer every email. I am not, like we said at the beginning, Dominic. Yeah, I'm Dr. Tony Alessandra, but I'm a New York Italian, grew up, my father, a cab driver. I answer every email. If you call me, I answer the telephone. I don't have somebody screening my calls. You want to call me, it's 1-858-456-0028. You will call right to my cell phone. Text me if you want. But I am approachable, Dominic. Okay.
It's amazing that I'm talking to you. I mean, you have to think about where I was first introduced to you. I was backpacking through Australia, and I think I found your book on a bookshelf in a youth hostel. So I didn't even buy it. Sorry, I didn't even buy it. But that was where my mind was going, and I was like, okay, Dr. Tony Alessandra, he's got something to say, and I read that book, and that's because I've been on this path of personal improvement for a long time, and now here I am, kind of doing it. I'm showing other people, and it's so great to reach out to you. And you answered the email. That's to your point. You answered the email, and here we are today. And half of life is just asking for what you want, and you get it. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Tony. I really appreciate you being here, and I'm sure the guests did too. Have a great day.
Thanks, Dominic. You too.
Bye-bye.